Welcome to the Silly Little Girls Club podcast, and this is our very first episode. I don't even know how to introduce my first guest. Like, how do you introduce Mel C, as in Sporty Spice, the OG of girl power, all round just incredibly inspiring woman that has championed a girl power movement for over 3 decades. The conversations that we're going to get into are just so inspiring. I've learned so much, and I literally cannot wait for you to listen to this conversation. Welcome to the Silly Little Girls Club.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited that you wanted to be a guest, because we couldn't do a female empowerment podcast without the actual girl power.
Well, you know, it's something that's followed me around throughout my career, so obviously I'm very, very proud of that. And it's amazing how it's kind of like, you know, obviously girl power has been around forever and a day, and there's been so many strong women throughout history. But in the 90s, being the Spice Girls, you know, we had this opportunity to really bring it to the mainstream and to have quite young girls shouting and screaming about it, and they've grown up with so much girl power that I feel very proud we've been able to do that.
I mean, you should, because I feel like for me, I'm one of those girls that I truly think that having like idols and icons to see really flying the flag for girls has made it possible for me to do whatever I want. Like, really.
Well, when I met you, I met you through my daughter, who's also full of girl power, more girl power than I've ever had. And and I started to know you and to know your story, and it's just, you know, it blows my mind. You know, you've done so well, and I'm like, only just got to know you, but I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
It is lovely to think that the Spice Girls were able to kind of reach out to people from all walks of life. You know, I think that was the thing, because obviously varying degrees of being very normal girls, all in very different ways. And that's been the thing, and it's the world over as well. That's what's so amazing for us. We were so lucky to be an international band, but also to be able to influence people from so many different countries and cultures. It's been incredible.
I don't really feel that there has been anybody since you guys truly be able to do that on that level.
Yeah, I think it's so funny, isn't it, how these things happen? And I feel, again, so grateful that we had this opportunity, and the stars were just aligned, weren't they, for the 5 of us to have come together and to have this dynamic that we had and still have. You know, none of us have changed, you know, maybe little bits in little ways, but we're still the same girls. When we get back together, it's just like, it's like that family dynamic, you know what I mean? So we come back together, and all hell breaks loose. But just that little magic, that spark, whatever it was, that enabled us to make the music that we made, to reach out and to, you know, to touch so many people around the world in the way we did.
It's amazing. I think everything, even down to that first music video, which just had you guys being just yourselves, I think, on that. And that really resonated with people in a time where I think there wasn't really that sort of like authenticity as much, perhaps. And I think that was just like I think that's why so many people were like, whoa, what is going on? What is this phenomenon?
Do you know the story behind the video?
No.
So basically, when we were auditioned, originally we were auditioned by a management company to be a girl band.
Okay.
And we were working together, doing like vocal coaching, working on choreography. We were recording other people's songs, and we were trying to figure out who we were, what our style was, but nothing was fitting, nothing was working. And we were starting to get quite frustrated with this management company that had put us together. So we had a couple of little lineup changes, and when Emma became part of the band, she was the last person to make the 5 that you know. It was almost like this last jigsaw piece has been
clicked in.
Yeah, everything just went, whoa, this feels really special now. And we decided to like go our own way, and there's, you know, people may have heard the stories before, but we left the management company, and there's lots of like Scooby-Doo moments around us, like packing up the house and leaving and stealing demo tapes and then putting someone's underwear, and there's just all these shenanigans that always seem to follow the Spice Girls around. But we started to look for new management, someone that really understood what we wanted to do, because we knew we were all really different, and we'd started to dress, me in the trackie. Victoria was always a little bit more smartly dressed, and Jerry always had something wacky on. So we'd realised, you know, we're different. No one's ever done that. You know, why don't we just wear what we wear when we're in rehearsals.
Yeah.
So that's what we wear. We wanted to write music about the things we had feelings about, you know, the things we were going through as young women. And we started going into labels because we've met producers and songwriters. We started getting some songs together. And we were going into labels, but we were like a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So I remember it might have even been Sony. It was like one of the big labels. Me and Mel B were on rollerblades.
Oh, stop.
You know, and we'd go in and we'd have like a little boom box and we'd play Wannabe. And, you know, sometimes when I didn't have the rollerblades on, we'd jump on the table and I'd do a backflip. And so it was just like chaos.
Yeah.
And we just had so much energy, you know, and we were so ambitious. And I think that no matter, you know, nobody knew who we were. Like, who are those girls? We just left an impression.
Yeah.
And we tell these stories. And then the first video was based around that experience of us like going to management companies or record companies or publishing companies and just causing havoc.
Oh my God. You know, now you said that is exactly, you can see it. Like the throwing the papers, doing oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing when you talk about authenticity. And we, you know, none of it was like, we weren't marketing geniuses. None of it was pre-planned. And talking about silly little girls, you know, it's to this day, it's super frustrating. I'm never going to take away what Simon Fuller did for us. You know, he listened to what we wanted to achieve and he really helped us make that happen. But he's called us Svengali, you know, like the guy who made the Spice Girls. But we came to him,
already, you guys.
The album mostly written and recorded and all being different. We never had the nicknames. That was a little happy accident that happened through Top of the Pops magazine. So it's amazing that everybody wants to say it was a guy that did it.
But it was you guys.
It wasn't. He helped us facilitate it. Yeah, him and his team of people and the label. And there was lots of women at the label as well.
Yeah.
But it's just that, it blows my mind that nobody can imagine that actually the Spice Girls came to the table pretty much with the product there.
Yeah.
You know, we are that thing.
Yeah.
When we get in a room together now, we are that thing.
That's
always.
amazing. I think that is just kudos to you guys for just maintaining that authenticity. I had no idea that the nicknames came from Top of the Pop magazine.
Yeah.
Did you just flick through one day and was like,
we'd had a lunch actually. So Peter Lorraine, who's a fantastic music manager as well. Now he looks after Jessie Ware, Alison Goldfrapp. He was looking after All Saints last time they were back around. I think he also looks after Steps. He's got this incredible roster of artists. Loves pop music. Was the editor of Top of the Pops magazine. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
You know, the Fun All Days, Smash Hits and Top of the Pops. And we went for lunch with him because you're doing all the schmoozing stuff, getting to know the editors and the journalists and stuff around music. And he was like, oh, you girls need nicknames. And I think on the day, all the names we came up with were way too rude.
I can only imagine.
So after the experience of just having lunch with us and our crazy behaviour, he'd come up with Sporty and Baby and Scary and Ginger and Posh, like, the ones you know us for. And it was just a tiny little article in one of the front pages of the magazine.
Oh my gosh.
And it just stuck.
Yeah. And then it just became global.
Yeah. And in the US, they don't know our real names, or they know some of us.
Yeah.
But they know us by our nicknames.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, when you got your nickname, is that what really resonated with you? And you're like, yeah, that actually works. And did you lean in?
We loved it. And it's funny because people go, oh, but you wouldn't want to be called Scary, would you? But then I'm like, have you met Mel B? And we just loved it. We embraced it, and we even became caricatures of those names. And it just worked for us, you know. We were having so much fun with it.
Yeah, and I think it shows, doesn't it? Yeah. And I think those names have even followed you now, doesn't it? I mean, what does like the Sporty Spice sort of persona mean to you now?
I went through, you know, an interesting journey with, you know, myself as a Spice Girl, myself as a person, myself as, you know, sporty. But I think all of us, we have these like little moments of crisis, don't we, when we're growing up, and it's like, oh, who am I?
Existential crisis.
Yeah, I think being so young as well, because like when Wannabe came out, I was 22, and when you're 22, you feel like a grown up, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know everything. No one's telling you anything.
And then you're 32, and you're like, oh my God, when I was 22, I knew nothing. And then you're 42, and you're like, oh my God, when I was 32, I knew nothing. Now I'm 50, and I still don't know much. But during those times it was really difficult because we were under a lot of pressure. Incredible things were happening. We were super busy. We were exhausted, and we were coming to terms with this whole new life we were living and experiencing, reading about ourselves. You know, I worry for young stars today, and you know, quite recently horrible things have happened. You know, there's people in the public eye are under an extraordinary amount of pressure with social media and the pressures that they face, and I feel very grateful we didn't have that back then.
Right.
But we did have the tabloids, you know, and that was kind of our version of...
And they would hound you, right, and follow you, and it's like scary.
Yeah, and it's kind of... Well, we also know that they were finding out information illegally as well. You know, that's been proven now. Lots of payouts have occurred because they were listening to phone messages, and there's a lot of other things that were going on. But we were super paranoid. But you were constantly reading people's opinions of you, which I think, gosh, everyone in the general public have to do that now. And at the time, as a young person, it was really, really hard. And I was Sporty Spice, obviously, in the Spice Girls, and embraced it and lived it. But when I went off and started my solo career, I was quite damaged by the whole experience. You know, a lot of it was incredible. I have no regrets, but a lot of it was really hard.
Yeah.
And I think all of us dealt with different things in different ways, and it took me a long time to really heal from some of the experiences that I'd had. And part of me healing or having that journey was to kind of really distance myself from it too. So I just had a few years of not being Sporty Spice and not wearing a tracksuit, and then I went through those whole years of feeling like if I was in a trackie, I looked like a Halloween version of myself.
Oh, you felt like you was wearing a costume of you.
And I came on the tube today. There's certain places where I'm like, can I go on the tube dressed as Sporty Spice?
Absolutely.
And I did. I know I'm battered and eyelids. It was great. You gotta love London. But yeah, there was a few years I just felt like I needed to like figure out who I was without being Sporty Spice. And I reckon, was it 2019 was probably the time. I think I was getting a little bit more, you know, comfortable with being that person. And then in 2019, when we did the stadium shows and we got back together, I fully embraced being Sporty Spice and just felt very proud, not to want to speak about myself in the third person, but be proud of her. You know, when we look back at our younger selves, because I think women do this a lot, criticise everything. You know,
and
all
compare.
the things that you weren't good enough. You weren't this, you weren't that. And, you know, I had so much, I suppose, like regret and embarrassment over moments. And sometimes things were, you know, it was very hard to, you know, sometimes when you need like to care for yourself, but all you do is beat yourself up. And as I've got older and, you know, and had a lot of therapy and now we are so much more open about speaking about mental health and being a lot more positive and taking care of ourselves and each other, that I'm able to go, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry to my younger self for putting myself through that. And now I just, you kind of want to nurture your younger self, don't you? And I'm really, really proud of her, not only for the amazing things I was able to achieve, but for the really difficult things I was able to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that is incredible. I think, like, thinking about what people are facing today, like young artists and stuff, I think I was listening to Lily Allen's podcast actually on this, and she was talking about how when artists are signed to a label, you're not employees of that label, you're freelance. So you don't have like employment rights or things like, they don't really have a duty of care to artists. And when she was saying that on her podcast, I was like, I had no idea. And actually as a business owner, like the duty of care that I feel to my team, and they're not exposed to anything like what artists are and things. And I'm just like, how has nobody sort of put that together and sort of started to make those changes?
But what's incredible is, you know, the longevity, because the thing is, when you're an artist, you very much feel like a product. When you're successful, if you're lucky enough to be successful, you are making a lot of people a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, I have been fortunate enough, you know, with the work I've been able to do with the Spice Girls as a solo artist. I've made more money than I ever thought I would, you know, as a kid, from the background that I come from. But there are lots of other people making a lot more money. And you would think that the longevity of preserving this product
Yeah.
would be the most important thing. But I think we live in a society where everything, and it seems to become more and more disposable. It's like, well, who's the next big thing, you know? And so people are kind of just discarded. And and it blows my mind because, you know, I've never really worked in like a traditional work environment, and you know, and I believe there's legalities, isn't there, around duty of care?
Huge.
And I just think it's a moral thing.
Yeah, it is moral.
Whether you are a label, a management company, you know, you are a lot of the time taking children and putting them into a very dangerous world. And I think a lot of young people who want to be famous are very vulnerable people. You know, I think I've said in the past, potentially the people who want to be celebrities are probably the least equipped, the least well equipped to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Gosh, that's a really interesting way to think about it, isn't it? And I just think, I feel for like that disposable culture, it does seem to be getting more and more. And like, you know, you've got an amazing career, and it's like you do so many amazing things, and you're still making music, and it's just it's incredible. And I think that's because you've put that work in and that time to yourself to overcome all of that. And you think back to people that, you know, like artists now, are they going to be able to have that longevity and stuff?
Yeah, you know, I am so obviously so grateful for everything that happened with the Spice Girls, because it did, you know, don't get me wrong, I've had like peaks and troughs in my career. There's been some really tough moments when I've questioned, you know, do I want to carry on? Can I carry on? But I think having that base from the beginning, it's always given me just enough to fall back on. You know, financially I've always been able to support myself. You know, life and lifestyle has looked different, but as I've kind of worked things out and gained my confidence and just been very sure in what I wanted to do, and kind of used, you know, like all of those like cheesy old sayings, like, you know, like taking the shit, you know, using it as manure to make beautiful things grow, right? So like I think that's a wonderful thing about being a creative, is that you can, you know, when you're writing music, you know, sometimes you're grateful for the tough times because it gives you something
to write about.
And that's the thing that people identify with. You know, that's the thing I think as a solo artist, of course with the Spice Girls, but then again as a solo artist, when I've been very open and honest about my own feelings, that's when it's really struck a chord with people,
and it resonates,
and that's a beautiful thing to be able to do, because for me I've always found solace in music, from being a kid in my teenage bedroom, you know, the first broken hearts, all of those moments, and then being the person who's done that for other people.
That's what's become really clear to me from getting to know you, is how much you love music. And I feel like that is like so like it just fueling that career even more to go and see where else you can take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I want to stay interested, because you know well that I started DJing about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's so funny because you know, this is like another area of my life. So I think when I was a student, I was like kind of like between the ages of like 17 and 20, and I was a raver. I used to go out raving, and then I used to look back on that time and think, oh my God, it's, you know, such a misspent youth. And like now I go out and DJ and play so many versions of the songs I used to go out and rave to, and I just think, no, it was just research.
It was literally research, and it's like those full circle moments that come back, right? And it's like all of these things that you dismiss at the time for perhaps being, you know, oh, I shouldn't have been doing that, but actually it just feeds into maybe what you need to be doing.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, you know, we all make certain decisions in our lives and we think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone down that road. But it is really it's the journey, and it takes you to where you want to be. You know, I think as you get older, you get braver to go, no, that's actually what I want. And you also know what you want.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times, I think the scariest times in my life have been when I'm like, I don't know what I want.
And you've got no direction, and then you like feel a bit like, what am I doing? And then things spiral and you get in a mess. Yeah.
And I'm a complete believer in like manifesting as well. And I don't do lots of rituals and things. I just go, if I want something, and this is what I learned with the girls back in the day. We were so like-minded in what we wanted to achieve that we went into that meeting with Mr. Fuller and we said, you know, we want to be the biggest band in the world, we want to make a movie, we were saying all these things, and we did it. You know, it's like
aligned. Say it, put it out there.
Existence, right?
My God, I feel like that is such sound advice for everybody, and I think that is, again, that brings it back to that mantra of that like female empowerment, that girl power, like movement, and that really is a manifestation. I feel like shouting girl power and really putting it out there has manifested this whole thing for women everywhere to have been like really inspired by that.
Yeah, and it's like it's a cultural movement, isn't it? It's like my daughter always goes, "Be humble, mum," and I'm like, "No, I'm just it's fact, girlfriend." But, the thing is, it's incredible, and we're so super proud. But like, why did it take 5 girls to make that happen? Do you know what I mean? And it's, there are so many things I did with the girls I would never have done on my own because I'm not that brave.
Yeah.
We had each other's backs, and it's like when you're with a group of friends.
Oh, anything's possible when you're with a group of friends.
Totally. And that's what we had. Yeah. We had this we had power in numbers.
That's amazing. I think back to like some really like seminal moments that I remember, which was like really girl power. And I know one of them has had like a little bit of a resurgence maybe on TikTok lately. And I think it was, if I'm right, it's the Brit Awards, I think. Is it 97?
97.
And there was one certain Spice Girl calling out Liam Gallagher.
Yeah. So in 96 we went to the Brit Awards, but we hadn't released any music at this point.
Okay.
So the Brit Awards are usually around like February time, and Wannabe didn't come out till July of 96. But when we came back in the new year of 97, we'd kind of conquered the world.
Yeah, it went like, didn't it?
Yeah, it just went crazy really quickly, and it was this beautiful homecoming. And there'd been reports in the papers that Liam had said, if the Spice Girls are going, I'm not going. So like I was like, all riled up. So we went up there and I said my piece, and and it was really fun, and it was all a bit tongue in cheek. I'm a massive Oasis fan, and always have been. So it was just a bit of fun, but it's funny how it comes back around.
Yeah, it is, and I think like it's one of those moments where you've got like a guy saying, "Oh, I'm not going," if like but basically like
those silly little girls
exactly.
Yeah.
And actually that silly little girl the year later is picking up an award and calling you out on it, and I think that is powerful in itself. And I think I remember that because that was the year Jerry wore that dress as well, wasn't it? Everything was girl power, and everything was going.
It was the year that Brits was the Spice Girls Brits. I think we got 3 awards. We opened the show. Yeah, it was major. And to finish off the story nicely for you. So when I'd never actually met Liam Gallagher, I'd been at awards things and like walked past him, but when I eventually met him, he so I was at a friend's house. I was actually at Natalie Appleton's house, and he just started dating Nicole.
Oh, how funny! How funny is these things cross after you've done that, and then he's dating a friend,
right? So funny. So then I forget what was going on, but I was over at Nat's, and they came over, and like she was like, come here, look. And he was with Nicole. So like I opened the door to let him in.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, come on then, Scouse. And he's been lovely to me every meeting ever since.
I feel like Scouse and the Mancunians always have that anyway. So there's that like banter, isn't there?
There's a bit of rivalry. Yeah.
But what was like, so when you did go up on stage, you're like, come on, have a go. What were the other girls doing? What did they think? We were like, oh God.
Well, we always used to have this thing where we always all wanted to speak.
Yeah.
And there's always so many people to thank. So we go, okay, do you want you thank the fans tonight, and you thank our families and everything, and you thank the label to do whatever. And I think I was just so annoyed at Liam. I was like, I know what I'm saying. But again, I don't think I would have had the balls to do that.
The girls were on the stage
if the girls weren't there with me, and it's something interesting thinking about that and thinking about speaking to you today, is that I remember, we all have a narrative built around us in the media, being in the public eye. And I was really, I used to find it hard to understand who I was because of potentially moments like that. They called me like mouthy. They thought I was a bit aggressive. And I mean, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm not like that.
Not at all.
All. And it's like, it's just so interesting, isn't it? I wore tracksuits, I was a bit muscular and, a bit gobby, northern. So they built this like
narrative,
and then they questioned my sexuality as well. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, would they still do that today?
Oh, you'd hope not.
I know,
you'd
hope
really
not, right?
hope not, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the tabloids, like when you look back from articles in the 90s and noughties, like the language that they use is disgusting.
Oh my God.
It's like insane.
Slightly off topic, but this sort of thing, I've been rewatching Desperate Housewives, and that was like early 2000s, and the terminology and the stuff, you're just like, oh my God, so I can only imagine what it was like in tabloids.
It was wild, but I think now they have it like read between the lines. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they're as bad, but not saying it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very weird. It's a weird culture. The thing that's always wound me up about the tabloids is, you know, because they write really horrible things, and, you know, and things we don't need to know. It's such an invasion of people's privacy constantly. You know, we ask for it. Oh, do we?
No, we actually don't.
Yeah, but then they say, oh, it's what the people want. But it's like, has anyone asked the people what they want?
No.
You know, and we have this thing, don't we? Horrible things happen in the world, but the majority of people you meet on a daily basis are really nice people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're horrible people out there, but it's such a minority.
Yeah.
It's like, surely, you know, give us some credit.
I know exactly. Yeah. It's just that sort of narrative that's built, and you just think, why does anybody want to badmouth somebody else? But again, I just worry that it's not changing so much, like as quickly as it should, perhaps.
Well, something that actually surprised me. So, of course, 90s Spice Girls, uber successful. And I was lucky enough, recently I did a panel with some other girl band members.
Yeah.
So I was with Shaznay from All Saints, I was with Keisha from Sugar Babes, and Leanne was there from Little Mix, and Nicola Roberts from Girls Aloud.
That's a really strong panel.
Great, right?
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And we were all talking about our experiences. We had lots of women from like different areas of the music industry there. And I was really, really shocked at some of the things the girls had been through. And this is all post Spice Girls, right? All of these bands, All Saints, you know, come not long after us. But the other girls, you know, a few years, decades, whatever, being told what to wear. You know, being told what to sing, being told what to say. And I was like, I literally, like in the panel, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it made me really mad because I just thought, did the Spice Girls achieve nothing?
I mean, that's absolutely not true because, you know, we're all of a credit here to this, but I don't think that the record labels maybe learnt the lesson. And, like, you know, you give girls the room to be themselves like they did with you, and you got this global success story. You try and hole and typecast people into things. And, of course, these are fleeting trends, and it's not going to have, you know, the longevity of, like, careers.
Yeah, and this is what it's crazy. And of course, you know, Spice Girls, what's really crazy is that we were together, the five of us, in the public eye for about 2.5 years.
Gosh. That's actually such a small amount of time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super short. And yet we kind of imploded because the pressure is so great, you know, and we all needed a little bit of time out.
For sure.
And, you know, we went off, you know, Jerry obviously was the first one to go, and then the four of us did the tour, and then a couple of the girls had babies, and, you know, and what happened. Yeah. And I think the industry were like, oh, we had this huge cash cow.
They ruined it.
And we lost it, right? So I think then they just tried to control it. They tried to over-control it. And then that didn't work either.
No,
you know, obviously the Little Mix girls were around for a long time. They were around for like over a decade. Yeah. Which in band terms is an eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just really shocked and saddened that they'd had to go through things like that. I thought we'd kind of change things.
I mean, what scares me to think is what if Spice Girls hadn't been, what would they've had? So maybe that's another way to look at it, because, you know, it did pave the way a little bit more for that girl band era anyway, because it was a boy band time anyway. Yeah. And so now all these girl bands came through, which was, you know, I loved, because like...
Yeah, we've had such great girl bands in the UK.
Such good girl bands. I'd put it out there and say the UK girl bands are the best girl bands out there.
I think we rule.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I suppose, like, having gone through all of that and, like, you know, taking a break, what did it take for you to start a solo career then? Because that must have been scary.
You know what? It was actually a really natural thing for me to do. And I think for good and for bad. Yeah. I think I was scared to stop because I was, like, running away from lots of my own personal issues at the time. And I think I'd just been on this, like, treadmill.
Yeah.
of working busy, and I think sometimes, being a workaholic, which I think both of us can be at times.
Yeah, we definitely relate.
Yeah, you're scared to stop, But it was good for me because it was good to be in the studio and to be on my own and to be able to express myself as an individual. I think it was a really important time for me. I probably should have rested a bit more. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any regrets on that. It was just like a really inspired time for me musically.
Yeah, and I think thinking back to like what you're saying about, not having the confidence to do things without the girls behind you, this was probably like a really cathartic thing for you to like find that power to do it yourself.
The funny thing is, like with the girls, I think there are a lot of performers that like me because I can be quite shy, like in a social situation. But put me on a stage and I'm absolutely fine, and I know some people are kind of the other way around. And my kind of safe space would be in the studio, in the recording booth, in the vocal booth, or on stage.
Yeah.
So those are like the major parts of being a solo artist. And I think also I'd been quite quiet. I was one of the quieter members of the band. So in interviews, I didn't really speak very much.
Yeah.
And it was just really nice to be asked the questions and be able to answer. And then I realised I quite like talking.
And then we've not stopped. I love it. But do you think that because your persona of Sporty Spice in the band was that sort of androgynous one, that you did get targeted a little bit more by like press and things with negative comments because people just didn't because it didn't fit that narrative so much as a girl band member? Do you know what I mean?
I think everybody in the band has their own shit to deal with, when it came to the media, and I think all bands have had this. There's always one that's kind of picked on a little bit. I think that was me. Gosh, I mean, I don't think I've ever really said that out loud. But when I think about how I was referred to in the media, they said quite nasty things about me and my appearance. They said awful things about all of us. But but the other girls, Melanie and Jerry were written about a hell of a lot because they were the more outspoken members of the band, and they had different things they had to deal with. It was very misogynistic, because I've recently read some articles actually around Melanie, and I was like, whoa. I think because we knew what was going on in each other's lives, but you're so focused on your own survival.
Of course, you've got to be.
Yeah, so to go back and see what they were saying about her, I was like, oh my God, they were disgusting about her, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
And Jerry got the same. And I think, Victoria was a quieter member, obviously, once she started dating David, and that became a very different thing. And Emma, she's had moments where they've been very unkind or very intrusive, but being the baby, she was kind of always a little bit more protected.
Yeah.
It seemed. So she did okay. But it's really interesting how they target people in different ways.
It's just, I think that, I just don't know if that persona sort of lent into it, because I feel like for me, for that whole girl power movement, I feel like Sporty Spice was the most iconic one. You was the most iconic one because you were going against the norm and you were doing, like, being yourself and not conforming to that sort of stereotype. And it's just really interesting to think if that was...
Yeah, do you know, I had a conversation recently, actually, because I've been working on new music and to listening to lots of great songs, and potentially covering songs. And there was lyrics in this particular song, and it's a great song, but it's quite sexual. And it's like, I'm just not comfortable with that. I just don't feel like it's me. And I think when I was younger, I used to maybe be like, oh, why can't I be sexy?
Yeah.
But it's like, now I've got older, it's like, but it's not me.
Yeah,
I'm here for the girl who doesn't want to be the sexy one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we do exist. We're out there. I'll be sexy in my own private time.
Yeah,
thanks.
exactly. I know, I agree. And I think, when I have clients that come in and I speak with different friends and stuff, and this, you do have those people that are comfortable being overtly sexy, and those ones that, we just want to wear big t-shirts and, be ourselves and do what we want to do. And I don't know if it's a conformity thing at the same time, on a deeper level.
So my daughter, and I feel now, especially with social media, the aesthetic that they want to achieve feels very sexy. A lot more than I was ever exposed to or, wanted to be like when I was growing up.
It's scary, actually, isn't it? That.
Because, I think we've talked about individuality, and not everybody is comfortable being that way.
Yeah. But maybe I think the thing for kids nowadays is that exposure to things so early, because I remember the first time I met Scarlett, I think she was maybe just about 12, and I could thought she was about 15 because it's just an evolution thing. At 12 there was no way I was interested in makeup and stuff like that, and a lot of my friends were the same, and I think now it's just that exposure early, and then you can play around with it and it's fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's really amazing, but it is that sort of that change that's happened with
I think
Gen Z.
Evolution is such a good word for it, of like a cultural evolution, isn't it, of young women and the new pressures that are around young women.
Yeah, but I think again it's another way for women to feel comfortable expressing themselves early as well, because I feel like, probably because she's a daughter of yours, she is so headstrong, isn't she? And you just think, gosh, I hope that all kids can be a bit more like that, because, you say no, and you'll be really do what you want to do and not what others want to do. And I think that's something that we perhaps didn't have when we was younger.
Yeah, I know you can't generalise, but I feel like there are a lot more girls now who are a bit more outspoken and will speak up.
Yeah, and I think that, for me, if anything comes from anything, if that happens, change happens.
Thing. Yeah.
And that is, I think, bringing it back to the Spice Girls and the girl power movement, that it's an extension of that, only really, isn't it? Because it's amazing. I think, talking about motherhood and careers, how did that change for you? Because again, that is a whole other element to life, and you've gone through all of that. You had a solo career and then having a baby.
It's so funny, isn't it? Becoming a mum, of course, it's going to change you and life and everything, but I never expected the changes when I had, the changes that happened to me. It was almost like she became a teacher to me, and she just made me really strong as well. I think I had such a responsibility in bringing up this perfect little creature that I was like, I've spoken about, I need to be careful what I say, but I've spoken about, my decisions about leaving her dad. And, and we had a wonderful time together. We were together for 10 years, but I just got to a point where I just wasn't happy anymore, and I didn't feel like he was happy, and it wasn't the environment I wanted my daughter to be in, and I didn't want her to think that that's what a good relationship looks like, and so it was like my responsibility to her gave me the courage to make that big decision, and I never wanted that to happen. Obviously, no one ever wants that, but my mum and dad had divorced when I was about the same age as when Scarlett's dad, as Scarlett was. So it was really, really tough, but it was really, really important. She's been my teacher. She drives me crazy, but I'm so proud of her. She's amazing. I think that's the thing, becoming a mum, and I just thought I'd have this little person who just got me, and I got her, and we would just have this understanding. No, we're just two completely different people. But she's amazing, and she's taught me a lot. I
think it helped you build a lot of resilience and stuff like that as well.
Super resilient, and less passive. I'm a very passive person. I like to keep my head out of the firing line. I want a quiet life, but with my daughter, I just won't stand for things anymore.
So that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's quite a powerful lesson that you probably only learn when you do become a mum almost.
But it's that thing, isn't it? I think there's things you'll do for your kids that you probably wouldn't do for yourself.
Of course not.
You just have this, but but it's important. But you're like a lioness once you have that.
Well, exactly, and I suppose you want to show her and teach her all of those lessons, and not to maybe make mistakes that you've well, not that you've made any really mistakes, but what I'm thinking, things that you would change.
Go through the same things.
No, exactly.
That you've been through, the things that have been tough. And I think another thing which was really empowering for me was kind of being able to let go. I loved being pregnant, and I was lucky. I had a really healthy pregnancy, and a few little issues along the way. There's a lot going on, but I think it was the first time in my adult life that I'd just eaten what I wanted. I went to performing arts college, and I'd never really had issues with food until I was in the Spice Girls, you know, until I was in the public eye, and all of the pressures and being photographed constantly and all of those things was kind of when things all got a little bit intense for me.
Yeah.
But I'd always been conscious of weight and, you know, the way you look and eating, and that's like, it's like really hard. Once you start down that road, it's really, really
turn
hard.
back very easily, can you?
No, but then when I was pregnant, I was like, you know what? There's something more important now. You know, I've got to nurture this baby, and that was incredible for me. And it also made me respect my body.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, you're making another human.
It can do
you know, yeah. Rather than going, oh, I hate this and I hate that about my body. It was like, wow, you're amazing. Yeah. And I think as a woman, that's a really empowering thing.
I mean, that sounds empowering, especially if you've been like, you know, really suffering with that for a long time, and then you have this moment and this epiphany where you're like, actually, my body's amazing and it can do all of these things.
Yeah. And you know, and I've always been lucky. You know, I've had a few injuries, and you know, I had a knee reconstruction 1 year. I ruptured my ACL, which is a pretty horrible injury, and I've never had a serious injury until that point. And that was another moment where I had a lot more respect for my body, because I'm an able-bodied, healthy person. You know, and we still are not good enough.
Oh my God, don't. Because I remember watching you in that Sadler's World play, and I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. Like, that was a wow moment.
Yeah, that was pretty insane as well. To be invited to Sadler's Wells all those years later. I was in, so if people don't,
so you probably don't know about that one.
I did. So I was invited to perform at Sadler's Wells with a contemporary dance company, and when I was rehearsing, because I trained for about a year before I went into the show, and I realised I'd not trained as a dancer for 30 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. What am I doing? Like, why did I agree to this?
And on the opening night, I was working with two other incredible dancers, younger than me. And I had this moment when I ran up to one of the dancers, Harry, beautiful, beautiful man, incredible dancer. And I was in my unitard. It felt a bit French and Saunders at times. And I ran over to him to this moment where we embrace, and that voice in my head went, you just look like a stupid old woman.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But I've learned to go, you can hush now.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't. I've got this.
I hear you. I hear your point of view, but I'm just going to tell you to just back down.
Yeah.
So but then from that moment on, I was just like, no, I'm just so proud of myself. It was a massive challenge.
It was a huge deal as well. It was amazing. And I think that kind of, you know, putting yourself out there and to go back into training, and it's just incredible, really, to be able to do things like that.
Yeah, I think it's just those things in it. There's so many things in life that we're a bit too scared to do or a bit too scared to fail at.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very much a believer in, if you don't have a go, how do you know? I just think regretting not doing things is probably worse than doing something, falling flat on your face. Because the thing 100%. Is, it's like, you know what, even being in the public eye, you know, all of my bad hair choices are there for the world to see.
Not anymore.
Bad outfit choices. Not anymore. Grey hair these from this day forth. But, you know, no one cares.
No one cares
about, you know, the other people. We all fuck up. We all make mistakes. But, you know, because it burns, doesn't it? You know, I'm thinking about when I had too many tequilas the other night in Dubai. That makes me cringe.
That cringe, isn't it? It gets us all that sort of guilt. Yeah. Like, oh, no.
Yeah. But anyway, no one cares.
No one cares. And you had a good time.
It was a great time.
Exactly. And it was 2-3 day hangover now, you know what I mean? But I think the last things really I'd love to touch on is sort of like, you know, that influence and legacy that you've got and you've built. Like, what is it that you want people to remember that part of your career for?
Oh, gosh, I mean, I think it's out there. I think it's happening. Like you said, it feels like it's kind of permeated lots of generations. You know, I think it's funny sometimes because I think that it's a golden age to be a Spice Girl, because so many of our core fans from the OG days are in their 30s now. Yeah. You know, and a lot of them have younger kids, and I get like put into little scenarios like, oh, have a picture with this lady, and then they're like, who's she, Mum? You know,
I bet that's quite nice in a way.
It's lovely, but you know, they might have a girl power t-shirt on. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and they know who the Spice Girls are. They don't recognise a 50-year-old Spice Girl, but you know, they know the music and they know the videos and they know about girl power, and I hope that lives on forever.
I definitely
will. You know, it feels like a part of like language now as well. There's not often a day goes by when there's not some reference, whether it's something I'm watching TV, something on the radio,
on
an
social.
ad campaign.
It's like, I think I saw Lily Collins dressed as a Spice Girl for Halloween.
Yeah,
and I'm just
she
like,
was a big fan.
Yeah, and you're just like, it really is that powerful. But I guess, what is next? What is
next?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully more of the same. You know, as you've already said, I still love making music, performing.
And you're an incredible DJ.
DJing, I'm loving. And, you know, and we all, this is what we all have to manifest, everybody. Is for the Spice Girls reunion.
We manifest that every day. You know, every morning, you know, you do your affirmations. It's like Spice Girls reform.
I think we should make it a thing.
We should, shouldn't we? Yeah, I think so, because like we need that to happen.
Yeah.
Like,
and, you know, and we discuss lots of things, but we're just waiting for the right moment. With us girls, it's like when the stars align and we get back together. It feels like it's right. It happened in 2019. It's 2024. I think it's time.
I think it's time. Like, I mean, I think I would die. Like, that would be literally amazing.
Well, please don't die. No. We want you to enjoy it.
Just more for the outfits is what I think of.
Yeah.
Like, with that, I'm just like, I want to see everyone's outfits. Like, what would that be?
Yeah.
It'd be
I know,
amazing.
but it's like the energy.
Yeah.
You know, those shows, when we did the stadiums, it was just goosebump moments.
Yeah.
It was incredible to see all of those people just reliving their youths, you know, maybe discovering us live for the first time, and just the nostalgia, those songs and what they mean to people.
Oh my God, it's so true. Well, let's all manifest that, because that would be a dream. But yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I've loved it.
Oh my God, me too. I literally, honestly, it's a dream to have you on the podcast, and obviously thanks in advance for going to the launch party. While I have you, it would really help me out if you could just hit follow or subscribe, depending on which platform you're getting your podcast from, and I can keep bringing you these amazing conversations with these incredible guests. And I will see you next week on the Silly Little Girls Club.